Hey everybody, welcome to Kick-Assery. I've got a kick-ass guy on here. I'm very privileged to have Eric on here. Eric actually had me on his show. Man, Eric, that was what, a year and a half, 2 years ago? I don't know, a year ago. So what is Kick-Assery? Really, this is my opportunity to brag on people in my life, to give kudos to those who have had either a direct or indirect impact on my life. And Eric really has. Eric he doesn't know this yet, but when he had me on his Frederick Advice Givers, which is a podcast that he has done for how long, man?
Going on 3 years.
There you go. And he's been very, very successful with it. And he created a magazine from it. And he asked me to be on there through a third-party person that introduced us. And come to find out, we lived right across the street practically from each other, and we didn't even know it. And what was awesome about it, Eric, is this is my kudos to you, man, and this is my bragging on you, is that we ended up talking about body language, and your interview skills are very, very solid, and you're very good at that. And it kind of brought that back out of me because I hadn't really talked about body language. It hadn't been a thing in the forefront or top of mind for me for years and years and years. And just having the opportunity to just sit down and BS about it and have fun and talk about it really brought it to the forefront. Now, fast forward a year and a half, now this is something that I'm pursuing very strongly. So I have to say thank you, man. And so with all that said, what's your 30-second pitch? Who are you? What do you do?
Might take a little bit longer than 30 seconds, but I'll give you my pitch. So since you led with Frederick Advice Givers, it's something that Frederick Advice Givers is my passion project to give back to other local business owners and entrepreneurs, where we have a platform, Advice Givers, which is a podcast. Before I started Frederick Advice Givers, I did not know what a podcast was. So we released 122 episodes, just the audio version, which was on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all those versions. So watching other entrepreneurs like Gary Vaynerchuk, Johnny Dumas, those guys, I saw where video was such a key component. People retain information differently. They do it visual, audio, and reading. So we had the magazine, like you mentioned. We had the audio podcast. Just this month, we're releasing our third episode this week, fourth next week, obviously. We've added a video component to Frederick Advice Givers. So we're also on Facebook. So where we would get, hundreds of downloads, now we're getting thousands of views. Okay, so what we can do with that full interview, and we're getting interviewed, we're recording this now, we're doing a kind of a dual thing here. We can cut it into 30-second snippets or 3-minute snippets to promote that business owner. Okay, so not only do they have the audio version now they've got the video version they can take out to their audience, post on their Facebook page. So that's the Advice Givers. And the other thing I'm really passionate about that we started this year, February 22nd of last year, was Impact Club. So Impact Club is, for all intents and purposes, is crowdfunding to benefit local charities, and I stress local charities. We were the third Impact Club in the nation. There are 16 now. So what it is each member commits to donating $100 a quarter. We have a live event each quarter where we bring in 3 charities. The 3 charities are drawn at random from member-nominated charities. 2 caveats: one, they're 501c3. The other one is they're local to our area. So this year, 2017, we had over $91,000 in committed donations to 4 local charities. So this year, before that, I didn't know much about the fundraising aspect. Getting to meet the 4 winners and then the 12 that had all been presenting at Impact Club. Fundraising is such a huge issue with local charity, with every charity, but with local charities specifically. So we're filling a void for these local charities. So that's my 2-minute elevator speech.
Well, now that's not everything that you do, though. Aren't you also a realtor, an author? What else do you do?
So yeah, so I have a real estate company, Impact Maryland Real Estate. It was started last year. I've been in real estate for 15 years. My former partner, who I love, still a great friend of mine. We just saw the vision of the company going in two different directions. So last year, a new company was started, and we've now expanded our reach. Not only are we in the Frederick area, we also service Western Maryland, and we've recently expanded and hired two partners in Southern Maryland. So yes, I own a real estate company, and it's a little bit different model. We can talk about that if you want to later. And then also the psychological approach to sell real estate. You can go to Amazon, find that. That's the first book I wrote. And this coming month, Beyond the Mic, which is a compilation of the first 75 interviews on Frederick Advice Givers, and what I learned from those guests is getting released. So Beyond the Mic is another way, another platform for me to help those business owners. Hey, look, I was featured on Frederick Advice Givers. Go here, listen to it. Go there, watch it. Now here's a book, and I'm on page 73 or whatever. So yeah, we kind of, now I'm saying it, yeah, I guess I do a lot of stuff.
Dude, you do, man. And dude, we don't know each other great,
Right.
Through your Advice Givers, we got to chat for an hour or so, and then here and there we've kind of shook hands a couple times, and that's about it. But dude, I have to be very honest, is that you are very motivating. You are very encouraging, because you're doing it, man, and you're going out there, and you're a family man, you're a father, you're a business owner. You are going out and helping the community raise funds. Like you said, it's not easy. It's hard. It's a process. And dude, you're so encouraging, because you're showing that shit can happen and it's okay.
Well, and I appreciate what you're doing. Like, you're kicking ass, right? So you had an idea. Like, ideas without implementation are basically shit. So you had an idea. You researched how to do it. I'm sure you're better today than you were on your first episode, right?
Yep.
So kudos to you for actually taking action.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And it's funny, because I'm one of those guys that tends to take action before I figure it all out, and I figure it out as I go. And I don't see that as a bad thing, because we need both. We need people who are very structured and they're very formulated, but then we also need live wires like probably you and I. I don't know if you're more structured than I am. You're probably more structured than I am. That's just a guess, but because I jump in, I make my mistakes, I fail forward, and then I figure out, okay, is this going to work or not? If it's not going to work and all the signs are like, no, this is BS, this is dumb, stop doing it, then, it's okay, let's shift gears and go. Are you more structured? Do you go into it having a formula, or are you dumb like me and just jump in and make it happen?
I am somewhat more structured,
okay.
Where I'll write out, the end goals and the steps to get there. But the steps are always changing as we're implementing. The acronym for FAIL is the first attempt in learning.
Yep.
The first podcast we did, I was scared shitless, for lack of a better term. I hope Facebook doesn't ban us or whatever. So I do have structure in my day. I'll wake up, I write my morning musing, which is a daily email newsletter. So I also do that. That goes out to my audience. Sometime I'll write it between 5 and 6 in the morning. Today I wasn't actually able to get it out because I had to prepare for you. So we'll do a little bit later one in the day. So I do have structures of content. And that's basically, how I grew my real estate business, how we're growing Advice Givers, how we're helping Impact Club, how we're helping other charities, why we're now doing video, is the 3 C's that I always harp on: consistent, compelling communication. Okay. I publish a monthly newsletter. I publish a monthly newsletter for all my partners in my real estate company. So it's consistent, compelling communication, moving you, your character, your belief, and your vision forward to your audience. So yes, there is structure. Like, I've got deadlines to get stuff out, and that's the structure that I have. Now, is it always a linear line to that deadline? No, absolutely not. But I've got the deadlines of stuff I want to get out.
That's awesome, man. That's something you and I were chatting just before we went live, and that's something that I'm constantly working on myself, because I am not the most consistent person. Ask my wife; she'll tell you all day long. And yet, I've got my big calendar up here that I'm working on, and I look at it every day. And I noticed, Eric, one of the things that I'm not good at on the consistency side is, I noticed last week I got lost and I got way off of where I was going. And so I sat down Monday. I was like, okay, what the hell what broke? What didn't work out so well? And I sat down, I was like, you know what? I wasn't looking at my calendar and I wasn't doing my morning rituals, And so Monday I sat down and I got up the time I needed to and I started doing that. And it's only Thursday, but I feel like I'm accomplishing way more already in the first 3 days of the week than I did all last week. So yeah, man. And you have so much going on. You have to be that.
And everybody gets lost, Dale. I mean, everybody, they've got that trigger, or and what we do, it's the highs and the lows. You have to manage the highs and get through the lows. But I found that doing something consistently, be it working out, I don't work out and I really should start, or reading every day, or whatever. Like, put some consistency in the start of your day, and then the rest of your day kind of falls into place. And yes, we kind of lag, and it's cold outside, and I don't feel like getting up today. But you need to do it. You go 2 or 3 days without doing it, and you're lost.
Yeah, absolutely. So consistency keeps you on track, and you set your deadlines and you outline how to get to your deadline. What started you on this process of being like, just from an outside perspective, this uber successful dude in small town Maryland? What started you on that process?
First of all, I don't know if I'm uber successful. So thank you for that. What started me on this process is just, well, first of all, I like challenges. Okay. So I always like to be challenged. I'm introverted. So I am very introverted as a person. So the podcast, that was really kind of like the trigger. Okay. The podcast was the trigger to kind of everything else. It's happened the last 3 years. Writing a newsletter was the first trigger. That happened 5 years prior to that. I was not a very good writer. I had read one book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was the only book that I read through high school. Now, if you're back at my office and look, I've got 500 books in the office. I'm always trying to move myself forward. So writing, the first newsletter that I wrote took me 40 hours to write. Then the second month, it took me 30 hours. Then it took me 15. Then it took me 10. Now I can turn one out in 2 or 3 hours. But I was challenging myself. Then Advice Givers, the podcast, getting on and actually talking to somebody and interviewing somebody. So I did months of research with John Lee Dumas, with Tim Ferriss, with Mixergy, to figure out the content and the concept of how they did their interviews. The first couple were very poor. But so I like to push myself and push my limits. Doing the video now, that's been a whole nother animal, is getting in front of a camera. It's totally different. We've basically, for our real estate site, we have featured property videos. That's kind of like a combination of like MTV Cribs and, one of the HGTV shows. We've got a full-time content manager. I'm pushing my boundaries in my company and in my growth with having a content manager. Our company is probably one of the only companies around that I know that has a full-time content videographer on staff. So I like to be challenged. Is the short answer to, or the long answer to should be a short question.
Well, and I didn't mean to, I didn't want to throw you off on that, but I'm always curious about what that trigger is. What is that spark to the kindling to get people going? Did you have this fire in high school? Was it not until you were an adult? I love those origin stories of how people got to where they are, or at least getting them to the process of where they're becoming.
So the origin story is, yes, I played, sports in high school. I was very competitive in that aspect. I've got 2 cousins that were basically brothers to me, Justin and Zach. Zach was a month and a day older than me. Justin was 15 months older than us. Zach, one of the best guys you'd ever meet, most humble guys, but also the smartest guy in the room. And you knew that immediately when you met him. but he didn't come across that way. Zach, Notre Dame, MIT, CIA. His name is actually on the Mars rover. So he's just the most humble, kind, gentle person you'd ever meet, and so was his brother Justin. Zach was in a boating accident on July 4th, 2011, and passed away. I wear a bracelet every day. WWZD. What would Zach do? So when that happened, I mean, it's tough, and it still is tough to this day. But I saw the impact and at his funeral, the amount of people that were there, and just the outpouring of gratitude that they had, that Zach in his 35 years in his life had touched so many people and made such a difference in their life. I don't want to be known for the real estate aspect of what I do. I mean, that's great, and I love helping my buyers and sellers, and it provides a great living for my family, and I'm trying to help my partners grow their business, and that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, my two sons, and Justin too. Justin, he was a tutor. He had tongue and jaw cancer and passed away May of 2016, and at his funeral in California. It was also packed, and the priest minister asked how many people have been touched or directly affected by Justin, and everybody had been taught something from Justin. So I want to be known as somebody that gives back to my community, that gives back to other business owners, and then on top of the advice givers, giving back to business owners, also giving back to charity. So that's why our company, we have such a philanthropic arm where we give back to the communities that we're involved in. So seeing my two cousins and the impact that they had on other people's lives has kind of turned the course of mine to not so much worry about Eric and what Eric's doing, but to worry about how I can make a greater impact with my community, basically.
You're building your legacy.
Trying to, yes.
Yeah. No, you are trying. You are. I mean, there's no doubt about it in everyone else's eyes. And I find that, I suck. One of the things I suck at is accepting accolades and attaboys, and, but I feel that we live for them. I'll do really dumb work, and I'll work really, really hard for an attaboy versus $1 or $2. But then again, I struggle with accepting those accolades, and I feel that majority of the folks that are truly trying to make an impact on their community and create that legacy, not purposefully, but they are usually like you are, very humble. You're willing to get out and make it happen, but you'd rather give the credit to someone else. And that's a good leadership quality.
So tell me about the book you're talking about writing. So I'm gonna flip the script on you here.
So and you gave me a great piece of advice, and you're absolutely right. So the book that I'm attempting to write, because you were talking about being outside your comfort zone or doing something that flips that switch. I've been talking about writing a book for 15 years, and fear is preventing me from doing it. Lack of self-confidence. So basically what it is, as you know from your show, body language is something that I've been doing since I was in 8th grade, freshman year in high school. And as I was going along, I was like, okay, I think I'll write a technical book. I'll write, okay, so if I do this, then this, and then, the cause and effect of it all. But then, like I was telling you earlier, I was like, I have a whole shelf of those books. It does, and that's not me. I'm not a technical educator. I feel that I do well at educating people, but I'm not a technical educator. So I think what I'm doing, man, is, and this may change tomorrow, but I think what I'm going to do, or what I'm doing, is I'm flipping it a little bit, and instead of being more of a technical body language book, it's going to be more of a conversational book. Meaning that, how do you be a good conversationalist? How can you be a good communicator to build the major relationships? And you, as a salesperson, specifically in real estate, you're building micro relationships every single day. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that quickly? And how can you build those micro relationships as quickly as possible and as honestly as possible? And I think that's more the direction I'm going, because that's more of what I talk about when I do this.
So can I offer one piece of advice?
Please do.
So I think you could do yourself well, and I think it will come about quicker, is by sharing the stories of the people that you've met that have either influenced you and or you see positive body language, and then give and it doesn't have to be long. Like a book doesn't have to be 300 pages. You maybe pick out your top 8 people, go to them, talk to them, and then use their story or use their example as the point that you want to get across in that chapter. And then you've got your 7 or 8 fundamental strategies for body language success, but you're using it through story. Okay?
That's why you kick ass.
You're using it through story. And that's what we found with the Impact Club, is that the winning charity, the charity that gets that quarter's donation, which the last one was over $26,000, it's the person that can tell the most compelling story to connect with the audience and to pull at the heartstrings that gets the majority of the votes and ends up winning that. So by using other people as examples, pulling out their story, and then at the end, or transition it from A to B to C to D back to A, transition it to the point that you want to get across in that chapter. But people are going to remember, yeah, Susie with XYZ, she did this for Dale. She's not going to remember the specific fundamental principle. She's going to remember the story that got you to the fundamental principle.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
So that's
awesome. And thank you. Because this is something that I've been struggling with, is that I'm a storyteller. I'm an orator. I'm not a writer. I'm not a technical person. And so having these conversations, which is what Kickassery has become, is conversations between myself and people who just are amazing like yourself, that I do. Goosebumps right there. So
you don't need to write. You don't need to write. Like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's going on his 4th best-selling, New York Times best-selling. He doesn't write a word.
Yep.
And the Beyond the Mic, I wrote the intros to all the sections, but ultimately I hired a ghostwriter, and she gets credit in the book. I hired a ghostwriter to put together the specific chapters.
Yep.
I didn't have time to do that, but she pulled it from the content that I got. So you could have somebody go back and re-listen or pull this transcript from this interview and make a chapter out of that if you wanted.
And I have a gajillion and a half stories. And when I used to do live presentations, workshops, and seminars, dude, probably half of the content of that, whatever it was me telling stories about, oh, hey, when you manipulate when you try to bring down an aggressive handshake, and you do this and this and this, here's why I learned that, and here's the context and everything. So yeah, you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. So thank you.
So in a year from now, I want to see a book. It might not even take a year.
No. I actually have a ridiculous deadline that I've set for myself that, like you said, deadlines are changed and they move. But yes, there will be something this year, for whether it's going to kill me or not. We'll have something this year.
Good. Let me know how I can help.
Oh, well, careful what you ask for, because I'll be calling you. And so we only have a couple more minutes here, because I promised you we'd kick this off in 30 minutes. So in your successes, and I get it that we have a hard time, we all have different definitions of success, and it's easier for us from the outside to look in to see, man, Eric is he kicks ass, and he's got this and he's got that. So accepting that, what advice do you have for us who may be struggling, or that we may be looking to say, okay, you know what, I do want to start a podcast, or maybe I do want to, like Stacy Smith, Allgood is on here, and she just started her real estate process. And what's your advice for those of us that either are starting something and we're struggling with it, or we're struggling with the starting of it?
So research those that you want to be like. Before I did the podcast, I mentioned John Lee Dumas, Tim Ferriss, Andrew Warner with Mixergy. And it's tough. It's tough to do. Try to reverse engineer how that person got to that point. Second, if you can find somebody even closer, a mentor, and not a big brother, big sister type of thing, but somebody that's kind of would hold you accountable. So I'll check back in 3 weeks and say, hey, Dale, let me see the first 2 chapters. If you don't have the first 2 chapters written, I'm going to be pissed at you. Have somebody that holds you accountable and do something every day to look at the bigger building, because we all have our business. Okay. After I get out of this, I'm going to have 14 emails and text messages of problems that I need to take care of. But we're also inundated in the day-to-day activity of our business. Take 45 minutes, take 33 minutes and 33 seconds, take whatever out of the day to work on the bigger overall vision. So every day you're moving that vision forward. So those are probably my 3 pieces of advice: research, get somebody close to you, and do something every day with a bigger overall vision.
Awesome. And so what's the best way for me to find a mentor? How do I go up to somebody like, all right, Eric Verdi, I would love to know more about how to do podcasts or write a book. How do I approach people and ask for that?
DM them, message them on Facebook. Hey, let me pick your brain. Let me have coffee with you. It doesn't have to be a mentor for long term. It can be, I go out to have coffee with people all the time. Can I pick your brain for 30 minutes over coffee? And you should be able to get 1 or 2 or 5 nuggets out of a 30-minute conversation if you know what your desired result going into that. Or hey, like today, let's jump on a podcast. Let's jump on an interview. Let's jump on a live. Let me pick your brain. So that happens. I do get those type of requests from people. Other agents throughout the country, other people that own a podcast, other Impact Club founders, how did you do this or why did you do this? And right now, we're working on a marketing services division. And that's why I've got over my right-hand shoulder here, my guy, Jay Rock, where we can help other business owners brand and market their businesses through the content that we've learned to produce over the last few years. Because it really is all about stories and all about content.
It is. And I think one of the things that, like you're saying, if you sit down with somebody, and I like how you're I think, and I'll speak for myself, is with mentor, I think mentor for life. I have to have this person as in my back pocket, somebody that's on speed dial for the next 10 years. And I like what you're saying is that it doesn't have to be, it's someone you respect that has the information. Ask them to have some coffee, ask them to lunch. But I think the other part is, and once again, I'll speak for myself, is that, hey, Eric, would you be willing to hang out with me? I know you're ridiculously busy. Would you hang out with me for 10 minutes and let me ask you some questions? Sure, Dale. I have a tendency of allowing myself to get starstruck a little bit, and I may not be as present as I could be in that 10-minute, 15-minute, 20 minutes. And I think that's something very, very important for us, is to be present, be here, and absorb what's being said.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yes, you gotta be present, be here. I totally agree. And it could be, you have a 30-minute conversation or an hour lunch, and then, maybe you can check in and say, hey, what do you think of this? Or a text message or DM or whatever. Mm-hmm. And somebody. So what I've found, I've got Teresa Kuhn. She's a financial advisor out of Texas. I consider her one of my mentors, great friend. I haven't talked to her in 5 months. But I know if I need something or if I have a question, Teresa will be there for me. Right. Ryan Fletcher, same way. He's a co-founder of the Impact Club with me. We have more of an ongoing conversation. But if I ever need something, I can reach out to him or Teresa. There's other people. Dr. Minicall is a great friend of mine, a great example that there's people that you look up to, and at certain points in your lives, you might want somebody for business, somebody for health or whatever. But hey, I'm struggling now. Can you help me?
Awesome. And not let pride jump in the middle of all that and say that because this is my thing. I can do it. No, I can't, and that's just dumb. And I need to stop and ask. So, right. Eric, our time's at the end. Brother, thank you so very much. I truly appreciate it.
Did you want to see if we had any questions from any of the guys?
I've been keeping an eye on it, and on my end, there hasn't really been.
Perfect.
So I've been kind of throwing up a few things here and there, but on my end, there hasn't been a whole lot there. But guys, thank you for hanging out with us on Kickassery. This is once again my opportunity to share amazing people like Eric, and I'm looking forward to building my relationship with Eric even more if he'll have me. And if you guys have any ideas of who else you would like me to chat with who have had impacts, then let's make that happen. Eric, man, I truly appreciate your time. Thank you so very much.
You're quite welcome. And if you guys want to learn more about the Impact Club, if you're local here, we'll have the national website rolled out soon. It'll be impactclub.com. Our specific chapter is Impact Club Frederick. And then you can also see us at Frederick Advice Givers, and then our real estate site, Impact Maryland. Real estate.
Beautiful. Hey, at the end of this, do you mind putting all your contact info in the comments? So
Absolutely.
we know how to get hold of you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, Eric. Hang out with me just for a minute after we get done with this. Everyone else, have an amazing day. Keep smiling, because sometimes someone else needs to see that smile as much as you do. All right, guys, have an awesome rest of your day.